Through you, Mr. Chair, it is 4:04 and we are streaming and the recording has begun. You may begin your meeting.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Wilford. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 12th meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Pelham for this year. I would like to introduce the committee members for today's panel. We have Mrs. Brenda Stan, Mr. John Clausen.
Yeah, I'm here.
He's definitely just on video today, and I am Don Cook, and I'll be acting as your chairman. Ms. Wilford, would you read the land recognition statement of the Town of Pelham?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly. We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather as traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Wilford. This is an electronic hearing of the Committee of Adjustment of the Town of Pelham. Everyone present and those viewing from home will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions through the chair, being myself. This public meeting has been called to satisfy requirements of the Planning Act and Council bylaws. Notice of this meeting has been given by prepaid first-class mail to all persons listed as owners and the last revised assessment rule within 60 meters, 200 feet of the subject properties. In addition, a public notice sign has been posted on the lands and information has been provided on the town's Committee of Adjustment webpage. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed should an application be approved. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. The purpose of the application and relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given an opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to participate in the meeting. If you have pre-registered to speak during the public portion of the application, you will be brought into the Zoom meeting and will be unmuted. Please state your name and mailing address for the record. Please be advised, once you have finished speaking, you will be removed from the Zoom meeting room. If you are live streaming at home and wish to submit a comment during an application, you may do so by emailing clerks@pelham.ca. At the conclusion of the public portion of the meeting, these comments will be read into the record. If you submit comments after the public portion has been closed, your comments will not be considered. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Specific wording for conditions will be determined by the committee following the public portion of this meeting. Copies of the decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request. If you wish to be provided a copy of the decision, please contact the Secretary Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. The Secretary Treasurer's contact information is available on the upcoming PowerPoint presentation and is also available on the town's website. Any person, corporation, or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the local appeal body within 20 days of the decision for minor variances and within 20 days of the mailing of the decision for consent applications. This meeting is being conducted by Zoom webinar and is also being live streamed on the town's YouTube channel. You may wish to put your view on gallery view by clicking the top right corner from the speaker view. We ask that you are mindful of background noise for the duration of the meeting. Committee members are asked to mute their microphones until they're asked to speak. Please raise your hand if you would like to speak and vote, but also by raising your hand. Please note that attendees who have registered will remain in the waiting room via telephone or electronically until their application of interest is brought to the committee. Those participating online via Zoom will be asked by the chair to raise their virtual hand when they wish to speak. On a computer, you can do so by clicking on Participants in the bottom center of the screen, and then by clicking Raise Hand. On a mobile device, you can tap Raise Hand in the bottom left corner. You will then be called upon to speak. Your microphone will be unmuted by staff. If you are participating by phone, you will be unmuted by staff when the agenda item that you have registered for is being discussed. Applicants, agents, and attendees are advised that they are free to leave the webinar once a decision has been made on their applications. I have already introduced members of the committee for today's meeting. We also have Secretary Treasurer Holly Wilford, who's sitting at the council table. We have our planner, Mr. Kenny Ing, and we have Jacqueline Miller, who is our legislative coordinator for the clerk's department, looking after the technology. Does any member of this panel have any pecuniary interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If any of the applications to be considered at this hearing? Mrs. Stan.
I do not.
Mr. Clausen. Mr. Clausen, are you with us?
Mr. Clausen, you've muted yourself. If you could just unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do not.
And I also do not have any conflicts. Secretary Treasurer Wilford, have there been any requests for withdrawal or adjournment?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there have not.
Thank you. Members of the committee, I would like, because we have one application that actually has 6 different applications with it, I would like to have your indulgence to move to variance application A38 2021P, being an application for lands at 58 Bergenstein Crescent, town of Pelham. Can I have a mover and a seconder to change the agenda slightly? Mrs. Stan, thank you. Moved by.
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Clausen. All in favor?
I'm in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Clausen. Okay. In this particular case, we're going to ask Secretary Treasurer to read sections of the planning report relative to application A38 2021. Ms. Wilford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will just ask Ms. Miller to share her screen for the December 7th meeting for the A38 2021 PowerPoint. If you could just give us one moment. Thank you. This is the Committee of Adjustment hearing for Tuesday, December 7th, 2021 at 4 p.m. All Town of Pelham in-person Committee of Adjustment hearings have been canceled. Instead, the town is holding all Committee of Adjustment hearings electronically via Zoom. Please note no decisions have been made prior to this public meeting. This presentation is based upon the Town of Pelham's Planning Department report and analysis. All comments received from commenting agencies and the public have been forwarded in full to the Committee of Adjustment members for their consideration. Participants are reminded, ensure your background is free from offensive or vulgar material. If inappropriate material is visible, you will be removed from the meeting. Vulgar or offensive language will not be tolerated. If inappropriate language is used, you'll be removed from the meeting. Participants will remain in the waiting room until they are called to speak. Once your comments have been heard by the committee, your microphone will be muted. Once voting on an item has taken place, participants will be removed from the meeting completely. You may resume viewing the meeting via live stream. Decorum. The Committee of Adjustment is a formal public hearing requiring decorum, meaning all comments are to be made through the chair. If you pre-register to speak, you will be given an opportunity to address the committee at the public portion of the meeting. If you are live streaming and wish to submit a comment live, please email clerks@pelham.ca. Please note, comments must be received during the public portion of the meeting, otherwise they will not be considered. Disrespectful comments will not be tolerated. Please note, if decorum is lost, the meeting may be recessed and persons will be asked to leave. Public portion of the meeting. To allow for an efficient meeting, each member of the public will be given the opportunity to speak to the committee during the public portion of the meeting. Please note, after all members of the public have been given the opportunity to speak, the applicant and agent will have an opportunity to address all public comments at one time. Application for minor variance. File A38/2021P 28 Bergenstein Crescent. Excerpts from Planning Report. The subject land is located on the east side of Bergenstein Crescent, lying east of Lamadi Drive, west of Rice Road, known locally as 58 Bergenstein Crescent in the town of Pelham. The minor variance application requests relief from Bylaw 3705, 2016, 254, Section R2 254F, minimum rear yard, to permit a minimum rear yard of 4.91 meters, whereas the bylaw requires 7.5 meters. To date, the following comments have been received. Building Division. A building permit is required for the proposed uncovered deck. Public Works Department. No comments or concerns. Is the variance minor in nature? The proposed reduced rear yard setback is minor overall as the proposed addition is reasonably sized. It would not substantially remove outdoor amenity space of the parcel, as the proposed rear deck is considered to be an outdoor amenity space. Further, it is unlikely that the addition will have any shadowing projection onto adjacent properties. It is noted the property backs onto watercourse, which gives the appearance of more space as well. Is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? The variance is desirable as it will provide for a deck that will improve the outdoor amenity space for the residential dwelling while still maintaining adequate amenity space on the ground for outdoor uses such as gardening or play area. The proposed raised deck is not uncommon with other decks in the neighborhood dwellings which have rear walkouts from the basement. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? The variance maintains the general purpose and intent of the official plan as it does not compromise the neighborhood's ability to adequately service, maintain land, use compatibility, while also improving the property value and aesthetics by providing a rear yard deck. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The variance maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw as the requested variance will allow for the logical and appropriate extension of the dwelling while still maintaining adequate land for outdoor amenity and landscaped area. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposal applies current planning and development principles and providing design flexibility where suitable to do so. The proposal makes efficient use of the land, will not result in overbuilding of the property, will not alter the view, sightlines, or personal enjoyment of the subject property or any abutting properties, and should not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood with regards to land use incompatibility, traffic, privacy, or stormwater runoff. In planning staff's opinion, the requested variance is minor in nature, conforms to the general policies and intent of both the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is appropriate for the development and use of the land. Planning staff recommend that application file number A38/2021P be approved subject to the following conditions. That the applicant, 1. Apply for and receive a building permit for the proposed uncovered deck to the satisfaction of the chief building official. If you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the Secretary Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. Holly Wilford, Secretary Treasurer, Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Fonthill, Ontario, LOS 1E0H Wilford at pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found at the Town of Pelham's website. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. I will ask Ms. Miller to please bring in the agent and the applicant. The agent is Mr. Kevin Beamer, and we have applicant Ralph and Barb in the room as well. Mr. Chair, if you can just give us a moment to bring them in.
Certainly.
Hello?
Mr. Beamer,
Hello,
we
Beamer.
can hear you.
Perfect. Here we go. Sorry. There we go. Sorry about that.
Oops.
Working on it. There we go. Thank you for having us in here, Mr. Chair. I had a bunch of notes written down, pretty much mirrored what Ms. Wilford said. It's a reasonable sized deck for my clients. Just the way the house sits on the property with the angle of the yard and the setbacks, it made it impossible to have a deck that size with your setbacks. So A 12 by 12 deck we feel is not anywhere out of the realm for a nice size deck for my clients, and we're hoping this can get passed with no issues.
Thank you very much. So basically, you're in agreement with the planning report, and I guess after all of that, Secretary Treasurer Wilford, have we had any comments submitted by email?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. We have no pre-registered members of the public for this application, and I will just check the clerk's email address. One moment. Through Mr. Chair, it is 4:18 p.m. and we have received no emails. Therefore, you could close the public portion of the meeting and move into committee debate.
Members of the committee, could I have a motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
I will move that we close the public portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Clausen. Do I have a seconder? Mrs.
I
Stan,
second
thank you very much. All in favor?
I'm in favor.
Carried. Members of the committee, do you have any questions you want to ask of Mr. Beamer or Mr. and Mrs. Connolly?
I don't have any. I went and looked at this site. I didn't have any problem with it. I looked at it.
Mrs. Stan?
I have no questions.
Neither do I. I went and had a look at it today, and I think it's, yeah, just a little bit. They need a little bit bigger porch back there, and it really isn't going to impact on anybody. So with that, we have no concerns. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this particular application, either to grant or refuse?
Well, I move that we grant the minor variance, and the above decision is based on the following reasons. The variance is minor in nature, as proposed addition is reasonably sized, would not substantially remove outdoor amenity space, and is unlikely to have any shadowing projection onto the adjacent properties, backs on to Rice Road there. The general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. The intent of the official plan is maintained. The proposal's desire for appropriate development and use of the land because it can provide for a deck that will improve the outdoor amenity space for the residents while still maintaining adequate amenity space on the ground. The application is granted without prejudice or any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received from commenting agencies or budding property owners. The Committee of Adjustment considered written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendations that this application meets Planning Act tests for minor variance. And the only condition is that they get a building permit and satisfy the chief building official. So moved.
Can I have a seconder?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Stan, all in favor of granting this particular application? All in favor?
I'm in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Clausen. Mr. Beamer, after the period is over, waiting period, looks like you might be building a deck. Thank you very much for joining us, and good luck in the future. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Okay. We're going to move on. We have applications B31 to 33, 2021 P for the property at 198 Canberra Road, parts 2, 3, and 4. Ms. Wilford, can we look at these concurrently, or should we be looking at them individually?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. The consents certainly can be heard concurrently. In fact, we've prepared our presentation that way. I hope that is satisfactory to the committee.
I think we can proceed that way. In that regard, could you please lead us through the planning report for applications B31 to 33 inclusive.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will ask Ms. Miller just to share her screen with the presentation for B31 to 33 inclusive. Just give us one moment. Thank you. Thank you. This is application for consent file B31, 32, 33, 2021P, 198 Canberra Road, parts 2, 3, and 4. The subject parcels shown as parts 2 and 6, 3 and 7, and part 4 in the sketch are located on the south side of Canberra Road, lying west of Oak Ridge Boulevard, being part of Lot 3, Concession 8, Part 1 on 59R 4012, Town of Pelham. Applications are made for consent to partial discharge of mortgage and consent to convey for B31, 2021P, 833 square meters of land, parts 2 and 6 on the sketch, for future construction of a single detached dwelling. B32/2021P, 833 square meters of land, part 3 and 7 on sketch for future construction of a single detached dwelling. B33/2021P, 1,562 square meters of land, part 4, to be added to the abutting residential property to the west, being 204 Canberra Road, part 8 on sketch. Parts 1 and 5 is to be retained for future construction of a single detached dwelling. Parts 5, 6, and 7 are to be dedicated to the town for road widening purposes. No new development is proposed within the lot addition. Please note applications B31, 32, and 33 are being considered concurrently. Next slide. To date, the following comments have been received. Hydro 1, no comments or concerns. Building Department, a demolition permit is required for the existing dwelling. Niagara Region, no objections subject to the requested condition of approval. Public Works Department, see conditions. Public comments. One public comment has been received from a neighboring property owner, which is included in the committee's agenda and summarized below. Traffic safety with 2 new driveways close to crest of the hill. Piecemeal approach to planning process. Proposed lot lines are not perpendicular to Canberra Road. Driveways will either be not perpendicular to road or lots will be crowded due to angular restrictions, so concerns with variance decreasing frontage are compounded. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposal applies current planning and development goals dealing with appropriate infill development, specifically making more efficient use of the town's infinite urban land supply and municipal infrastructure. Where suitable to do so, the proposed lot creation complies with the zoning bylaw regulations and should not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood with regards to traffic, privacy, and stormwater runoff, subject to satisfaction of the requested conditions. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms with provincial, regional, and local plans. Planning staff recommend that application number B31 2021P, B32 2021P, and B33 2021P be approved subject to the following conditions. For B31 and 32, that the applicant provide a copy of the acknowledgement letter from the Ministry of Heritage, Sports, Tourism, and Cultural Industries for the submitted Stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment for 198 Canberra Road, advertising the site has been cleared of agricultural resources to the satisfaction of the Director of Community Planning and Development. Upon approval of the deficient zoning bylaw regulations to the satisfaction of the Director of Community Planning and Development. Receive acceptance from the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries for the archaeological assessment reports entitled Stage 1 and 2 Archaeological Assessment prepared by Dietrich Consulting Limited, dated November 4th, 2021. If the Ministry requires further archaeological work to be completed prior to acknowledging these reports must also be submitted to and acknowledged by the Ministry to the satisfaction of the Niagara Region prior to clearance of this condition. No demolition, grading, or other solid soil disturbance shall take place on the subject property prior to the issuance of the letter through the Niagara Region, confirming all archaeological resource concerns have been met through licensing and resourcing conservation requirements. Submit servicing drawings to the region for review and approval prior to site being serviced. That the applicant obtain a driveway access and culvert permit from the town to construct a new access to serve Part 2. Installation and or modifications of new entrances shall be completed in accordance with town standards prior to consent, and the applicant shall bear all costs associated with these works. Submit a comprehensive overall lot grading and drainage plan for all parcels to demonstrate that the drainage neither negatively impacts or relies on neighboring properties to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. Confirm that no existing utilities cross the proposed new property lines. Should any servicing cross the new property lines, the applicant will be responsible for costs associated with their relocation and or removal. Submit a servicing brief to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, including the submission. The applicant is to submit a drawing that indicates the location of the individual water service and sanitary laterals for all lots to confirm no existing water or sanitary service branches from or through the proposed lots to the other lands, and from or through the remaining parcel to other lands. If completion of new services is required, location cards shall be submitted upon completion. Submit a stormwater management brief which details stormwater management strategies and provides all necessary calculations to demonstrate post-development runoff rates are within road allowances and to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. That the applicant gratuitously grant a 7-meter road widening across the frontage of the subject property to the town of Pelham. The requested widening is to be conveyed free and clear of any mortgages, liens, and other encumbrances, and is to be described by reference plan. The widening portion of the plan will be the responsibility of the owner to order. The costs of providing this plan will be to the full responsibility of the applicant. The applicant will arrange for land surveyor of the property to submit the preliminary undeposited survey plan along with the related documents to the Town of Pelham Public Works staff for approval. Public Works staff will advise the land surveyor of any required revisions to the plan. Once the plan is deposited and the transfer registered, the Town of Pelham will clear the applicable condition. All costs associated with the transfer are at the sole expense of the applicant. Provide front dwelling elevation plans and perspective drawing plans that positively contribute to the surrounding neighborhood and demonstrate compatibility and harmonious transition with the existing streetscape with respect to height, massing, and design continuity through the use of the front porch, windows symmetrically proportionate to the building's mass, and a congruent use of exterior cladding, etc., to the satisfaction of the Director of Community Planning and Development. Said elevation plans shall be substantially unaltered from those at the time of building permit. That the applicant signed the Town of Pelham's Memorandum of Understanding explaining the development charges and cash in lieu of the dedication of lands for park purposes and are required prior to the issuing of building permit. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with a registrable legal description of the subject parcel together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for use of the issuance of the certificate of consent. Provide the final certification fee of $3.99 for each application payable to the Treasurer, Town of Pelham, to be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. All costs associated with fulfilling the condition of the consent shall be borne by the applicant. Receive final certification of files B31, B32, and B33 2021P from the Secretary Treasurer concurrently. Provide the Secretary Treasurer sufficient evidence indicating that the conveyance of the road widening be deeded to the Town of Pelham. This transfer shall be completed to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. Said lands to be conveyed free and clear of any mortgages, liens, or encumbrances. All costs associated with this conveyance are the responsibility of the applicant. For B33/2021P, that the applicant, that Part 4 merge and title with Part 8, submit a comprehensive overall lot grading and drainage plan for all parcels to demonstrate that the drainage does not negatively impact or rely on the neighboring properties to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. Confirm no existing utilities cross the proposed new lot lines. Should any service cross this new property line, the applicant shall be responsible with the relocation and removal. That the applicant gratuitously grant a 7-meter road widening access across the frontage of the subject property to the town of Pelham. Mr. Chair, this is mirrored with the other. I will just continue on. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with a registrable legal description of the subject parcel together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, with the use of issuancing the certificate of consent, and that the final certification fee of $3.99 be payable to the town of Pelham to be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. All costs associated are to be fulfilled by the applicant. Receive final certification of consents concurrently, B31, 32, and 33. Provide Secretary Treasurer with sufficient evidence indicating that the conveyance of the road widening be deeded to the town of Pelham. The transfer shall be completed to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. Said land shall be conveyed free and clear of mortgages, liens, and encumbrances. All costs associated are to be at the applicant's sole responsibility. If you wish to receive a copy of the decision, please contact the Secretary Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. Holly Wilford, Secretary Treasurer, Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Font Hill, Ontario, LOS 1E0, H. Wilford at pelham.ca. This contact information can be found at the Town of Pelham's website. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. I will just ask Ms. Miller to stop sharing your screen, and if she can bring in the agent, which is Mr. Craig Rowe, into the meeting. If the chair can just give us a moment to do that. Thank you, Mr. Rowe, for joining the meeting.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rowe. Do you have anything you wish to add to the planning report?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. No, nothing much to add to this. Just on behalf of our client, Judy Bulgan, it's basically it builds out as a 3-lot severance for 3 new single detached dwellings with a bit of land going to the existing dwelling to the west. We've reviewed the staff report recommendations and also the conditions of approval, which, although lengthy, they're standard and reasonable in our opinion, and can be easily managed. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Members of the committee, any questions you wish to ask at this time?
I haven't got any question. I went and looked at it. Looks straightforward.
Mrs. Stan, any questions at this time?
No, I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Secretary Treasurer Wilford, have there been any pre-registered participants wishing to speak?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. We do have 3 members of the public who have registered to speak, and if you would like, I can bring them in individually.
Please.
Thank you. I will just remind our registered members that you certainly have the ability when you come into the meeting to ask your questions or state comments or your concerns. And at the end of all of the members having spoken, then the applicant will have the opportunity to respond and provide comments. I will ask Ms. Miller to bring our first pre-registered member into the meeting, which is Linda Stokes and Larry Moot. Ms. Miller, if you can bring those individuals into the meeting. I'm not sure, Mr. Stokes, sorry, Ms. Stokes or Mr. Mute. We see your picture is a red car. If you'd like to unmute yourself, and if you wish, you may turn on your video. You don't have to.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. So this is Larry, is that correct?
It's Larry, yes. Linda unfortunately was called away to Toronto because a relative was taken to the hospital yesterday, but she couldn't bring up the Zoom program on her computer up in Toronto. So actually I've got her on my telephone, and my telephone is right next to my iPad here. So I'll have Linda say something and see if you can hear her. Linda, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I just was checking in. This new technology, wonderful once we connect them all together. So can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Larry, do you want to ask the questions or do
No,
you need to?
no, you go ahead.
Okay, so I guess then I'll just sort of go through what our questions were, and then at the end of it, you can it can be addressed. So we had just moved into the area about a month ago on 66 Concord, and noticed the one development that's already in progress, which is great. So our questions right now for this would be, which has already been answered, what will the 3 lots be used for, townhouse or detached? And I see it detached. What is part 4 at the back of the 3 lots being used for? And we were just concerned about if servicing needed to be added for these 3 lots. And more importantly, where do the sewer easements go after the end of part 8? And how are they constructed? And what would the capacity of the sewer easements and others be for those lots? Normally, I know sometimes they'll put a catch basin in. That was our main concern, was the sewer easements for the 3 lots, erosion runoff, collection and dissipation of the runoff. Larry, is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Because our lot backs onto the ravine, and the ravine actually is on the south side of the present area that's being developed. We just want to make sure that this ravine area, which is still basically pristine, is not impacted in any way, whether through water, erosion, or any other way. It acts as a sound barrier for us for traffic on Canberra Road. It's visually very appealing in the summertime when the leaves are out. We're just concerned that more residential growth is going to possibly have an impact on the ecology of this ravine area. That's basically it. So I don't know whether if someone wants to say anything with regards to that.
Mr. Rowe, do you wish to comment now, or you want to wait and hold your comments when we go to the closed portion of the meeting?
Sure, Mr. Chair, I have some notes here, so I'll do my best to address all those that were cited. So through you, Mr. Chair, so yes, single detached dwellings proposed on all 3 lots going forward. Part 4 is just the addition of extra land for the owner of 204. It's just more yard space for them. Servicing will be added from Canberra Road. There's an existing sanitary sewer that will be connecting laterally to the properties. With regard to water, and this ties in the regional comments, we need to extend water service off the hydrant in front of 190 Canberra, and that's the purpose of those servicing conditions that they've asked for. The easements located on part 8 are existing, and they are related to the development at 190 Canberra, and those outfalls are it's not a pipe solution, it's an overland with riprap. It's an engineered solution, which was granted approval by the MPCA. The town and Niagara region have all reviewed, and that services all the stormwater that comes off 190 Canberra, the townhouse development. The catch basins, there's none required on these properties. These properties all rely on overland flow currently, and that will remain. Everything going back to the ravine will be going back to the ravine the way it is right now. There's no new outlet proposed for these properties directly into that ravine. We're not going into any of the environmental area associated with that ravine, and that's highlighted in the region's comments. We didn't need to do an environmental impact study. Development's about 40 meters away from that, so we won't be impacting that. So that tree cover and everything will remain still as its functional sound barriers you referred to it, and also from a vegetation standpoint and habitat standpoint. So I think I might have covered all of those through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if there's any additional questions from Larry or Linda.
Linda, do you have any other questions?
No, that was just the main concern was the runoff of the surface drainage. I just want to make sure that it doesn't start to get overused. And
Exactly. Yeah. I was over there yesterday after all the rain, and I took a few pictures just to see what was happening drainage wise. And I noticed there's obviously a number of those black retaining walls set up to prevent erosion of the basic materials on the surface from going into the ravine, which is a good thing. And I think that once these homes are in place and we have grass and ground cover of some sort, then I don't think it'll be a problem, especially since we're sitting on top of a cane moraine that's basically all sand. So a lot of that surface water will be absorbed, I think, by the surrounding area.
Any other comments? Thank you very much for your presentation, and Mr. Rowe for your responses.
Thank you for allowing us to say our piece.
thanks very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. I will ask Ms. Miller to remove that pre-registered member from the meeting, and our next pre-registered member is Daniel Pete. Ms. Miller, if you can bring Daniel Pete in. Hi, Daniel. You're now in the meeting. If you'd like, you can unmute yourself. If you wish, you can turn on your video, but you don't have to. It's up to you.
Oh, okay. All right. How am I for audio?
Perfect. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to provide some comments here. I'm the owner of the property across Canberra Road. I grew up there. Actually, I'm supposed to provide my mailing address. I actually live in Welland. My address is 65 Fraser Street, Frazer Street in Welland, Ontario. And my name is Daniel Pete. As I say, I'm the owner of the property across the road at 193 Canberra Road West. I grew up there, and my sister lives there now. And of course, when I was a kid, the subject lands were a peach orchard, and the last presenter was on a cherry orchard where I had my first summer job. So it's always a little disappointing to see some of the best agricultural land paved over the years, but that horse left the barn quite a few decades ago. My comments then will pertain to the traffic and the planning process. So first of all, with regard to the planning process, I think I'll start with. Obviously, Judy wasn't a widow when the 190 Canberra Road plans were made, and so her circumstances have changed, and it's not reasonable to expect that planning could have been done with regard to this parcel as it was for the surrounding parcels, including 204 and 190. But at this point, with the addition of two driveways at the crest of the hill, that would be interfering with the deceleration lane on Canberra Road for eastbound traffic entering 190 Canberra Road. There is a bit of a concern. Those driveways would be at an angle to the road, and the angle to the road that they would be at, if they were parallel to the lot lines, they would be at an angle to the road, and the angle that they would be at would be an angle that would be worse than a right angle for looking for traffic coming from the west. It occurred to me that one possible access might be through the development at 190 Canberra Road and Part 4. That would provide a safer traffic access to those properties. And I will leave it at that suggestion. My other concern, which I really hadn't considered until the hearing began, was that there was an excellent presentation from, I presume from Mr. Ng, on how the proposed severances and variances would pertain to the planning process, and it would be very helpful if that information was conveyed with the notices, so that one doesn't find out about it as one is sitting in front of a computer, but you can have an opportunity to look at it. So I did note that one aspect of that was that a driveway access and culvert permits would be required. And it seems to me to be somewhat backwards that a key item like that seems to be at the tail of the process rather than at the beginning of the process. So I'll just make that comment. And again, that's not directed as any criticism of Mr. Ng, but merely of the process with which he is charged to follow. The drainage concerns are also something I just wanted to comment on. Obviously, there's a lot in the conditions that are proposed that would affect the drainage conditions, and one can only hope that those conditions are adequate to safeguard the land in terms of drainage. One of the things that I didn't see go by me in that presentation was the effect of the increased density of roof and pavement on those drainage considerations. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to bring forward those concerns, and I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Peet. Mr. Rowe, do you have any comments or with regard to Mr. Peet's?
No comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peet, and we will take your comments under consideration during our deliberations. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just ask Ms. Miller to remove from the meeting. We do have another pre-registered member of the public, and that would be Angela McRae and Brian Young. I'm not sure if they were able to join the meeting. They did email me comments. Ms. Miller, can you confirm if they are in fact in the waiting room?
Chair, I confirm that they are in the waiting room.
They are? Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Can you please bring them in? Hi, Angela and Brian. We can see you. You are in the meeting room. If you'd like to unmute yourself. You are muted right now. If you could just unmute yourself.
There, are we unmuted now?
You're unmuted. We can hear you. We can't see you, but it's up to you if you want to turn your camera on or not.
Oh, well, we thought it was on. Sorry. I don't know how to turn it on.
If you just hover at the bottom of your Zoom, you should see something that looks like a camera, and there might be a red line crossed through it. If you click on that and say Start Camera.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, there, got it. Okay.
Wonderful. We can see you. Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your comments.
Okay, this is Brian Young talking, and thank you for allowing us to address the chair. Our concerns with this new severance proposed for 198 Canberra is mainly to do with water runoff. It's always been our big concern with the even with the other development of the condo site. There were lots of issues that came up during this development, and they tried to do various mitigation efforts and still having issues. Anyways, our concern is with water runoff. So we're believing that when these lots are subdivided and new houses go onto them, there's going to be a significant increase in hard surfaces for this location. And this will contribute to a lot of additional runoff coming into the valley behind the property. And that valley extends down to our property because we're right next door. We believe that there should be a drainage plan to allow us to control how much water comes off that property and where, because what's happening is the little easement down in the valley is becoming overrun, and it's in bad shape. There's a lot of silt coming into it that came off of the 190 property location.
The Canberra Place condominium development.
Right. So, our main concern is what's going to be done to address this additional water coming off of these 3 lots. In addition to these drainage issues, we have concern for the safety of the lots with the driveways on Canberra Road. Canberra Road used to be a regional road. It's a very busy, fast road. It's not at all like a city street. It's more of a regional road, and the cars zip along there pretty fast. We see them all the time because we live on the road. These driveways are going to make for a dangerous situation because they're going to be at an angle to the road. And our driveway is like that as well, and it's tight to come into that driveway. It's a lot of people would like to back into their driveways because there's no way that you would want to back out of a driveway onto Canberra Road. It's quite dangerous. So we're concerned there's not going to be enough turnaround room in these lots to be able to drive out of your driveway, and if you have to back out, it would be an accident waiting to happen.
We find that when people are coming east on Canberra Road from Effingham, where there's the stop signs, they gun it up the hill. They come straight up the road as fast as they can until they get to the next stop sign, which is at Haste. And we see this all the time because we live on the road.
So definitely, those are our 2 major concerns: the water situation and the safety with these lots and driveways.
And the water is the main one that we're concerned about affecting us because our property goes down the valley and then back the other side. And Brian mows the whole of our property. And if it turns into a little brook down there, then we will be deprived of the back half of our yard.
Well, it's the erosion.
Erosion.
Yeah.
Could you?
So I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Could you? What's your address, please?
206 Canberra Road.
Okay, 206 Canberra.
Yes.
So you're immediately west of Mr. Dehaan's house at 204.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. I think I have walked that section of the easement, and I agree with you. It's in pretty bad shape down there.
Yes.
Okay. Those are your comments. We will consider your comments and take them under consideration during our deliberations. Mr. Rowe, do you have anything you'd like to say with regard to the comments raised by Mrs. McRae and Mr. Young?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
You're withholding your comments till ask the questions later, are you?
No, Mr. Chair. I just received those as comments. I didn't hear any specific questions in there. Thank you.
Thank you. In that particular case, Ms. Wilford, do we have anyone else?
Through you, Mr. Chair. We do not have anybody else that's pre-registered. Having said that, I've received 2 emails, if you don't mind. One email is from Mr. Brian Young, who is in the meeting just now. However, he was able to, as it turns out, connect. So I'm not going to read that into the record. Rather, I will just save it to the file. It was the same information he has verbally provided. And I have received another email from Daniel Pete, who is back in our waiting room, and he said one further comment. I would like that the report addressed a financial contribution in lieu of parkland. Is there a possibility that there could be an actual provision for parkland from, for instance, parts 4 and or part 8? So I've now read that final comment into the record, and that is all of the emails we have received. And I will state that it is 4:57, and there were only the 2 emails No other emails. If you like, you can close the public portion.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Wilford. Could I have a mover and a seconder to close the public portion of the meeting?
Yeah, I'll move that we close the public portion of the meeting.
Thank you,
John
Mr.
Clausen.
Clausen.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Stan. All in favor of closing the public portion of the meeting?
I'm in favor.
Mrs. Stan, you've just gone off the video, but that's okay. Since you second it, and we have a favorable vote on this one. So we're going to move into our portion of the meeting. Are there any questions committee members wish to ask Mr. Rowe?
Well, Mr. Rowe, with the water drainage and that, I mean, I think the town was pretty specific what they wanted from you from the topography and that. But I think the people that have commented should know that it really isn't you're responsible for any of the drainage down below. That was done at another meeting. I'm assuming you're not involved in that at all. Is that correct?
Maybe I misheard what you said through Mr. Chair to Member Clausen. Yes, we understand the condition of approval from the town, and we fully understand what they're asking us to do. There's some additional elements there too from a design perspective. So having to prepare those elevations and preliminary house plans and things of that nature, which are going to assist us in a better stormwater management brief being prepared for town staff to review. I would agree if I did hear you correctly, like those matters that are related to the existing easements on 204, those are related to 190 Canberra, which is a separate closed file that's approved and under construction. But we understand the need for that additional stormwater information, and we're pleased to provide it. But of course, we would only want to undertake that if these applications were approved, because it does require a bit of engineering work from our team to prepare for our client.
Yeah, through the chair, I thank you for it. I just wanted these people to be given assurance that the drainage is being looked after by well-qualified people. That's all what I want to make sure is understood here.
Mrs. Stan, any questions for Mr. Rowe?
I have no other questions. Thank you.
Okay, I noticed in the application that the property can be serviced with the municipal sanitary sewer. I walked Canberra Road, but I didn't see any manholes. Normally, single-family lots are serviced with a sanitary lateral. What is being proposed here? Mr. Rowe.
Through Mr. Chair, I'm not an engineer, and I can't necessarily speak to the specifics. I do believe that Mr. Young from the town is here and may be able to speak better to the sewer. But with regards to these lots, they will need a connection to the local sanitary sewer. And the water main, as I noted, we'll be connecting off the fire hydrant because the region doesn't want us to do a direct tap, because it does provide the water service to, I believe, regional in Fenwick.
A couple of comments. Do you have any idea what size water line is going to be taken off the hydrant lead? Mr. Rose,
through Mr.
Young, is anybody taking a water line off a hydrant lead to service 3 homes or 4 homes? I'm sorry, from a water quality standpoint, from my experience, it's totally unacceptable. But that being said, I must stand with the town staff on that particular matter. I am concerned with the sanitary sewer situation. I realize that I know there's a manhole. I think it's in front of 185.
Mr. Chair, could I jump in here? Mr. Chair.
Yes,
sorry,
Mr. Young.
Can I just jump in? There's an actual force main. There's a gravity force main that runs up Canberra Road.
A gravity force main? They don't exist. A force main's a force main.
Yeah, so it was installed as part of the original first development on the west side of this property. And the force main runs all the way up to the gravity manhole to the east side of the condo development.
Okay.
So there is already an existing service connection for the current property in place that was installed, but there isn't for the 2 additional properties that will be created. So they'll need 2 additional force main connections for those.
So you're saying that there is a connection available for the existing house?
Yes.
So there would be 2 more to service the other 2 lots.
There will require 2 additional ones, yes. As for the water service off the hydrant, I wasn't aware of that. The only service connection coming off that hydrant that was agreed by the town and the region was for the condo, due to the size of the service required.
From a water quality standpoint, I can see that, but for a water quality standpoint, to service these 3 homes, or maybe even including Mr. Dion's existing home at 204, this is not a good situation.
Mr. Dion's has his own service connection off the region's trunk main.
Then I would suggest that these 3 homes also be serviced off separate connections off the existing regional main. It is an asbestos cement water main. There are many connections to it already. A couple more are not going to hurt its structural integrity 1 iota. With that being said, I wouldn't even mind having a condition on this that the water services be connected to the existing regional water main. My next concern is related also, I mentioned, is the driveway connections. I realize that the properties will have a frontage of about 17 meters, say 18 meters, which is what, 54 feet. To put a driveway to come perpendicular into Canberra Road is going to take somebody a little bit of effort. I have no difficulty. I think that might be able to be done. On the whole, I've also looked at a report. It's on page 25 and 27 of the planning justification report. I noticed that the majority of the existing frontages on Canberra Road are greater than 17 meters, with the exception of possibly 2, 181 and 183 Canberra Road. I think using the widths on Oak Ridge Boulevard and Concord Street, I'm sorry, those don't relate to the existing neighborhood. To me, the existing neighborhood is those homes on and adjacent to Canberra Road. From that point of view, I don't believe the creation of 3 lots having a frontage of less than 18 meters is consistent with the existing neighborhood. And that is one of the conditions that we are supposed to look at as a committee of adjustment, is that the proposal is consistent with the existing planning in the existing neighborhood. From that point of view, and secondly, from a traffic point of view, I have some difficulty with adding 3 more driveways onto Canberra Road. What we are creating is strip development between Hayes Street and Effingham Street, which my experience says is not desirable. For the 2 reasons, actually 3 reasons: sanitary sewer not actually being available, somehow being in a common force main, making these people, I don't know who's going to be responsible for putting in the initial sewage pump and who is going to be responsible for maintaining and replacing that sewage pump sometime in the future. It better not be the town of the municipality. So therefore, there should at least be a covenant on the title of the 3 lots being created. You're buying this with a sewage system, pressurized sewage system, and you're going to be responsible for its maintenance and continued operation. That's one thing that I'm upset with. The second thing I'm upset with is I don't believe this development is compatible with the existing neighborhood. And third one is I don't think we should be allowing further strip development between Hayes Street and Effingham Street. And for those 3 reasons, I am unable to support these applications. Thank you very much. Mr. Rowe, do you have anything you wish to say with regard to my comments?
A few things, if I could add, Mr. Chair. With regard to the water connection, that was a specific direction from both regional and town staff. you have to pardon me as I'm a planner, not an engineer. I believe that the connection will be taking place with some sort of quality element and wouldn't be directly coming off the hydrant. But that is the engineering that we've been directed with. The region will not tolerate any connections to their regional main because they are concerned about losing the transmission network. And I don't think it would be reasonable or appropriate to condition these developments to have to connect to the region's infrastructure when they've clearly said that they don't want that. So I don't think that's appropriate. In terms of the development not being consistent with the built form in this area, I think it's, from a planning perspective, it's very reasonable to consider Concord and Oak Ridge because the lands are zoned as R1. The lotting fabric is generally consistent. We're getting the same type of built form, and the towns has asked for an architectural control, which is basically a backdoor way of implementing site plan control on single detached dwellings, which are not subject to the site plan bylaw of the town of Pelham. But we're willing to provide that to ensure we have some harmony and consistency between the existing built form and what's gone on at 190. Saying that strip development, Mr. Chair, is not appropriate in this area, I would challenge that as well from a planning perspective, as these lands are within the urban area. Strip development, there are very specific tests about not having strip development in the rural area. We are in the urban boundary, and we are also directed to use land efficiently and our infrastructure, our servicing, and our roads. And this is a very appropriate spot for additional development to be put forward. I feel that with regards to the driveways, your comments, I agree with you that there is a solution for the driveways and access points to be dealt with. Members of the public that provide comments saying everything's at an angle, why will it be on an angle? There was one comment in the written submission saying that the lots are on an angle, they're not perpendicular. There's nothing to be shown that says that we cannot have an appropriate and perpendicular access to the road that's safe. I would say that a lot of the comments I've heard from a planning perspective, I would respectfully disagree. I feel that these applications are certainly palatable and they're appropriate given the limited amount of urban area land that's available. Single detached dwellings going with single detached dwellings are fine. And there's certainly a numerous amount of conditions which we feel are reasonable and appropriate for the development that we're confident we can satisfy. And that will provide the assurances to the neighbors and the town and review agencies that there'll be no negative impact from these developments. So those are my comments respectfully, Mr. Chair, but we'll agree to disagree on some of the planning matters.
Mr. Rowe, as usual, we agree to disagree on some of the planning matters. That probably will not change. Even with your responses, Mr. Rowe, I still cannot support the applications. I would much prefer to see a single severance creating 2 lots on this particular property versus 3. But that's my own personal opinion. So I will let the committee decide the future of this application. You know my position. So thank you very much. Members of the committee, you have any further comments or questions you wish to ask of Mr. Rowe? Hearing no questions, do I have a mover and a seconder for this application approval or denial?
I would like to make a motion.
Yes, Mrs. Stan.
So the files are B31, 32, and 33, 2021P for 198 Canberra Road, parts 2, 3, and 4 in the town of Pelham. The applications for consent to convey parts 2 and 6 and part 3 and to merge part 4 with part 8 and a partial discharge of mortgage for parts 2 and 6 and 3 and 4 that they be granted subject to the following conditions. For the applications B31, 2021 and B32, 2021 to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, a driveway access and culvert permit to construct new access for part 2, an overall lot grading and drainage plan, confirm that no utilities cross the proposed new property lines, submit a servicing brief, submit a stormwater management brief, grant a 7-meter road widening across the frontage to the town of Pelham to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning. Provide a copy of the acknowledgement letter from the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, tourism, and culture industries for the submitted stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment. Obtain approval for deficient zoning regulations, provide front dwelling elevation plans and perspective view drawings, sign the town's memorandum of understanding. To the satisfaction of the Niagara region, submit servicing drawings for review and approval prior to the site being serviced. Receive acceptance from the Ministry of Heritage, Sport and Tourism and Culture Industries for the stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment. To the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer, applications B31, 32, and B33 2021 receive final certification concurrently. Provide evidence indicating that the conveyance of road widening be deeded to the town of Pelham. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with a registerable legal description, a copy of the deposited reference plan, and that the final certification fee of $399 be provided. For application B33 2021P, to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, an overall lot grading and drainage plan, confirm that no utilities cross the proposed new property lines, grant a 7-meter road widening across the frontage to the town of Pelham. To the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer, merge Part 4 with Part 8, applications B31, 32, and 33 receive final certification concurrently. Provide the Secretary Treasurer with a registerable legal description, a copy of the deposited reference plan, and the final certification fee of $399 be provided. This decision is based on the following reasons. The application conforms to and complies with the regional policy plan, the provincial policy statement, the town's official plan, and the zoning bylaw. This decision is rendered having regard to sections 5124, 5125 of the Planning Act. The committee considered all written and oral submissions and find that subject to the conditions, this application meets Planning Act criteria, is consistent and complies with provincial, regional, and town planning policy. That the applicant is aware additional zoning amendments are required.
Thank you, Ms. Stan. Do I have a seconder?
I second it.
Thank you, Mr. Clausen. All in favor of granting the application granting the motion?
I'm in favor.
Ms. Stan,
John
Ms.
Clausen's in favor.
I cannot support this application. Thank you very much, committee. Mr. Rowe, thank you for joining us. Mr. Young, thank you for joining us. And with that, we can move on to the next item of our agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of November the 2nd.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the minor variances for 198 to consider.
We have minor variances to go through. Hang on a second here. I have to move a little bit of paper around. We have files 39 to 41, also related to 198 Canberra Road. Secretary Treasurer Wilford, could you please take us through the planning report?
Yes, I certainly can, and we have prepared it to also be heard concurrently. I will ask Ms. Miller just to share her screen. Thank you. This is for applications for minor variance, file A39, A40, A41, 198 Canberra Road, parts 1, 2, and 3. Excerpts from planning report. The subject land is located on the south side of Canberra Road, lying west of Oak Ridge Boulevard, being part of Lot 3, Concession 8, being Part 1 on 59R 4012, Parts 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 on sketch in the town of Pelham. The minor variance application requests relief from Section 13.2b, minimum lot frontage, to permit a minimum lot frontage of 17.7 meters, whereas the bylaw requires 19. To date, the following comments have been received. Building Division. A demolition permit is required for the existing dwelling. Public Works Department. No comments or concerns. Public comments. One public comment was received from a neighboring property owner, which is included on the Committee of Adjustments agenda and summarized below. Traffic safety with 2 new driveways close to crests of hill. piecemeal approach to planning process. Proposed lot lines are not perpendicular to Canberra Road. Driveways will either not be perpendicular to road or lots will be crowded due to angular restrictions, so concern with variance decreasing frontage are compounded. Is the variance minor in nature? The proposed reduced lot frontage is minor given the surrounding area and lot pattern. Smaller lot sizes are increasingly becoming common throughout the town, region, and province to adhere to provincial interests. With the reduced lot frontage, the lot can still comfortably accommodate the proposed dwelling, outdoor amenity area, park, drainage, and provide adequate separation from adjacent lots and land uses. The reduced lot frontage should not result in sightline issues and traffic concerns, as a reduction is minimal. Is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? The variance to reduce the minimum lot frontage is desirable for the land, as it will allow for the creation of an additional residential building on a large, underutilized residential lot within the delineated built boundary of Fonthill urban settlement area. The reduced lot frontage will be negligible in terms of the resulting impacts and would appear indistinguishable from surrounding residential lots. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? The variance to reduce the minimum lot frontage maintains the policy intent of the official plan, as it allows for gentle intensification of an existing neighborhood within the delineated built boundary, add to the housing supply, support existing infrastructure maintenance, and make more efficient use of the large existing residential lot. The minor reduction in lot frontage will not negatively impact the character of the neighborhood, but instead help strengthen the diversity in the housing stock. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The variance seeking reduction of the minimum lot frontage provisions maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw plan, as the lot will continue to permit a single detached residential dwelling in the R1 zone. The proposed lot frontage is in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood and would not incur incompatibility. Planning staff are of the opinion that although the minimum required lot frontage will be reduced, the impact of the subject property and adjacent properties is negligible. The proposed lot frontage is keeping with the existing proximate neighborhood, and the additional housing opportunity aligns with provincial, regional, and local plans intent for the purpose. It is noted that reducing lot frontage provides for a large lot by today's development standards. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms with the provincial, regional, and local plans. Planning staff recommend that application numbers A39, A40, A41 be approved subject to the following conditions: that the approval of the minor variance is subject to consent files B31, B32, and B33 obtaining final approval. If you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the Secretary Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. Holly Wilford, Secretary Treasurer, Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Fonthill, Ontario, LOS 1E0, hwilford@pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found on the Town of Pelham's website. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. That is our presentation, and Mr. Rowe is the agent for this application.
Mr. Rowe, do you have anything to add for the consideration of the committee on the variance applications? Whoops, we've lost Mr. Rowe.
Oh, there
I'm
he
here,
is.
Mr. Chair. Nothing to add except we're supportive of staff's recommendation and the conditions appended thereto. No further comments.
Thank you, sir. Pre-registered participants, I assume Linda Stokes, Larry Moot, and Mr. Pete.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we did receive registered speakers, the same as we had for the others. I'll ask Ms. Miller to confirm if Ms. Stokes and Mr. Moot are still in the waiting room.
Madam Chair, they are not, but we do have Angela McCrae and Brian Young.
Thank you. So that therefore, I guess their comments have been made and they are in the record. And we do have Angela and Brian. So I'll ask Ms. Miller to bring them in if they wish to make any further comments.
Do you have any further comments?
You are muted right now.
There we go. Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can.
We're back.
We're back.
So our comments in regards to this variance is we believe that with the 3 lots and double wide driveways, which is what I presume they would be putting into here, once again, more runoff possibilities. 3 double wide driveways is significantly more hard surfaces than we had or we have presently on that property. So once again, we get into a situation with way more runoff. Our concern with the variances are, by allowing these variances, you are now you're allowing 3 lots versus 2 lots. If the variances weren't granted, you would not be able to put 3 lots onto this property. The frontage that I have marked down here is total frontage is about 53.8 meters coming across the existing lot, divided by 3, and you end up with 17.78 meters. If you were to do, so 3 lots at the 19 meters would not fit into that. So that's why you're requiring this variance. If you have the 3 lots in there, you're now adding a whole nother driveway into the situation.
Plus the roof.
Yeah, versus 2 driveways. Once again, less runoff with 2 driveways. The other issue that I have is when you look at these lots and you actually measure directly across the proposed lot lines at a 90-degree angle from the side lot lines to the other side lot lines at a 90-degree angle, you've only got a 16-meter width of the whole lot versus 17.78 meters. So it's really actually a narrower lot than you think it is. The frontage is 7.78, but the actual width of the lot itself is only 16 meters. So once again, you get a compressed lot with more hard space on it, hard surfaces, and more runoff. So that's our concern with allowing these variances, is it allows you to have 3 lots in that existing property, whereas if you met the requirement of the 19-meter lot frontage, you would not be able to have 3 lots. So that's, the purpose of these rules are, completely negated, like why even have the rules in the first place? I guess that's all I want to say about that.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, the severances have been granted. Right now, if the developer can satisfy the conditions that are being imposed on the creation of the 3 lots, then what we're really looking at now is the variance that will allow the frontage to be reduced from 19.78 to, well, actually from the frontage from 54 something or other to 17.8, or the variance is actually from 19 meters to 17.83, which isn't really a major amount. I agree with some of your concern, but in reality, we have now created 3 lots, and part 4 can be joined to the existing Mr. Dehaan's property to the west. So we'll take your comments under consideration. And I'm sure, Mr. Rowe, you may not wish to make any comment at this time with regard to the comments made by Brian.
I don't have anything to add, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. With that being said, I guess we could close.
Oh, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I will just check our email. I'll ask Ms. Miller to remove our registered members of the public. They can go back into the waiting room, and I will just check our clerk's email address.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Wilford.
Mr. Chair, I can confirm that it is 5:27 and we have not received any emails. So yes, you may close the public portion of the meeting.
Members of the committee, can I have a motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
I move that we close the public portion of the meeting.
And I second that.
Thank you. All in favor of closing the public portion of the meeting? Agreed.
I'm in favor.
Committee members, do you have any questions or any further discussion on these applications? Mr. Clausen.
Well, you know, we put conditions. I mean, you got the 3 lots. We're not here to discuss engineering. We've put that engineering, the problems with water and that where it should be is with the town. The public works, they want a drawing, an engineered drawing showing how the drainage and everything is going to be taken off. I mean, either we agree that they know what they're doing or we don't. I mean, if somebody comes to me with a concrete engineering calculations that shows me that 3 lots will not work with drainage, fine. But I haven't seen that. What I have seen is that our works department is going to be approving something that the developer will have to show them. And if you can't show them that, I'm assuming that the development doesn't go ahead. Or am I wrong?
My experience, Mr. Clausen, you are correct.
I will just confirm, yes, that is correct, Mr. Chair. As the Secretary Treasurer, after the consents have been granted, that the developer has 1 year to fulfill conditions. They are fulfilled by providing the documentations required and receiving sign-offs. I will not issue a certificate of consent until I've received clearance from every single department on every single condition that has been listed on that decision. I assured the committee that no certificate of consent will be issued unless every single one of those conditions are granted within the 1 year time frame. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Wilford.
With that being said, I'd like to move that we accept the minor variance. And the decision is based on the following reason. The variance is minor in nature, as the lot can be still comfortably accommodate the proposed dwelling, outdoor amenity area, parking, drainage, and provide adequate separation from adjacent lots and land uses. The general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. The intent of the official plan is maintained. The proposal is desirable for appropriate development and or use of the land because it will allow the creation of an additional or 2 additional residential lots on a large underutilized residential lot within the delineated built boundary of the urban settlement area. And this application is granted without prejudice to any other application town of Pelham, and that the committee adjustment considered the written and oral comments, which we've listened to, and agreed that the minor variance report analysis and recommendations that this application meets the Planning Act test for minor variance. And that the main condition here, that to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning and Development prior to the issuance of a building permit, that the approval of the minor variance is subject to the consent files B31 /2021, then B32, B33, 2021, obtained final approval. They have to be approved. So if in a year, if they don't have the certificate, they don't provide all the proof, then the won't go ahead. So moved.
Seconder?
I second that motion.
All in favor of the motion?
I'm in favor.
Carried. With that being said, Mr. Rowe, it's time to go to work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everyone have a good evening. We'll see you soon.
Yes, and have a Merry Christmas, Mr. Rowe.
You as well. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 more items on the agenda. One is the approval of the minutes of November the 2nd. Mr. Clausen.
Yeah, I read them through, and what I said and what I did, it came clear, so I have no problem. It reflects that as to what I experienced at the meeting. I would
And then basically, publish the minutes of the meetings as prepared. All in favor?
I am in favor.
Well done, sir. Holly, you're all set for the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we are.
One further motion, ladies and gentlemen, a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. Can I have a mover? Mrs. Stan, seconder?
I second it.
All in favor of adjournment? Carried.
I'm in favor. And a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and good health.
And,
Thank you. Thank you.